Final hour overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. TSN 1050, your TSN app, home smart speaker up on TSN 2. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Chase Daniel coming up here in a moment. Get his take on the weekend and his story that was reported on today that Ben Johnson, who's been a coordinator with the Lions, he wants to go back. Right, he's going to stick around. Now, there have been some conflicting reports that maybe why Washington and Seattle were not in on him or wasn't going to move in that direction is he had demands that were outlandish. Right, might have been asking for too much money or too much power, I guess. And he told both parties he's out, but it's been reported on that Washington, the Commanders, they were flying to Detroit to meet the guy, and I guess he sent a note saying, actually, you can just turn that bird around. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, I'm sticking around in Detroit with Dan Campbell. So that's a big win for the Lions, right? It's a big win. You got Ben Johnson sticking around. But that one hurts. That one hurts if you're the GM or the owner flying up there thinking, that's our guy. We've been waiting.
I think it's ignorant, man. Like, you have a meeting planned. You at least have to – you got to sit down and talk to them. I know there's some circumstances that – at the last second, you might have a conversation with Dan Campbell, and it might be, I'm not going anywhere. But for those people to fly up there like that, I think it's ignorant. It's. I don't think it's any way to do business. But I don't know the details, Hayes. I don't know.
And
I don't know if he said I wouldn't come up here because I'm not sure, and they came up anyway. But it just seems like it's. I don't know. Like I said, there's no loyalty in sports, man, even when you're trying to recruit a coach.
That's right.
This coaching is. I've never really paid attention to it in the NFL in the offseason. It's insane. The hirings and firings, and it's just going to happen again next year.
Well, exactly. Like what I find fascinating is the amount of employed coordinators that leave one spot to go somewhere else, like that are recruited from their job, not to take a head coaching job.
Oh, how much greasy business is going on?
Well, exactly. Like how much more money is being offered? Why is that happening? You know, but. Yeah, listen, I mean, Johnson's a young guy. He's a really sharp guy, great coordinator. He's going to have more jobs in the future. This is not going to take him out of the running because the other teams don't care that Washington's hurt. Right?
I think Harbaugh in San Diego, or not San Diego, in L.A., stole one of Harbaugh and Baltimore's people, his player personnel guy.
Yeah, I think he did take someone off his brother's staff. Yeah, which, hey, what are you going to do? I mean, listen, it's... everyone's trying to get better, right? And if you have the money or if you have opportunity, you can offer people. They're free to move around. But, yeah, so Washington's still looking for a coach. Seattle, I don't know if that means Belichick gets back into it. Does Mike Vrabel get back into it? Is Pete Carroll an option? Clearly not in Seattle, but in Washington it doesn't seem likely. But Washington sets up pretty well. They got the number two pick in the draft. They got a lot of cap space. They got a new owner who's going to spend money. And that seemed like a job that a guy like Ben Johnson might want, but I guess he's going back to Detroit. And, you know, it's been a couple of days since what happened in that Lions game. And I think if
Campbell's still taking it, though, I would imagine.
Yeah, everyone's conflicted on who should take blame for that. You know, how you feel about going to the kick or, you know, going for it on fourth down or the receiver dropping it or the fumble. You know, there's so many different things that happened that led to Dan Campbell and the Lions losing. But I think now that the dust settles, like if you're a Lions fan and then you get news like this today that the offensive coordinators are returning next year, like you're going to get that. There's going to be a lot of hype around that team next year.
Dude, and they have to have a good season. After you give the fans something to cheer about, miserable ending and kind of negative talk around the coach, decision-making, et cetera, you can't follow that up with a doozy, man, and say that was your one nugget for 30 years and now we're going to take a step back. You got to follow it up.
You have to. And like that's what Campbell was saying in the, you know, to the media a couple of days ago. You know, that hey, I told the guys this may be it. You know, and that's the truth.
What was his exact words? I told the guys this may be it for a
while?
Well,
we have the clip. JP, do we have the clip? All right.
You better have the right one.
I'm hoping here. I'm rolling the dice again. Whoa. Right? We're rolling the dice. Let's play it before we get Chase in, and Chase can give us his view on this. This was Dan Campbell after the game speaking with the media on what he said to his team a couple of days ago.
Look, I told those guys, this may have been our only shot. Do I think that? No. Do I believe that? No. However, I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware, and it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year. That's the reality. And if we don't have the same hunger and the same work, which is a whole other thing, once we get the off season, then we got no shot of getting back here. I don't care how much better we get or what we add or what we drive. It's irrelevant. It's going to be tough. Everybody in our division is going to be loaded back up, and you're not hiding from anybody anymore. Everybody's going to want a piece of you.
That's right, man. I like those.
Yeah, it's honest, and I think it's truthful. Here is former NFLer, NFL Network analyst, the host of the Chasin It podcast. Here's Chase Daniel. How you doing, Chase?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
We're good. Thank you for doing this. You just heard Campbell. I'm sure you've been talking a lot about it the last couple of days. You've been in the room before. What do you make of Campbell saying that privately? Hey, no guarantees, and then coming up publicly and saying, I just told the boys, no guarantees. We got a lot of work ahead of us here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty real comment. One of the realest comments I've ever heard from an NFL head coach before, honestly. And honestly, I played with Dan Campbell, as a player in 2009 when I was with the Saints. And then in 2017, he was coaching the tight ends when I went back there for my second time. So he's about as real as it gets. And, I would say that he probably thought at that point in time he was losing Ben Johnson. But now Ben Johnson's coming back. So he might be back there next year if they have all those pieces back together. But about as real of an answer from an NFL head coach that you're going to get, man.
We know the decisions he made on the field, Chase, and he's aggressive and he wants to always try to prop his players up and put them in positions to succeed. What do you think if players were in the back of the plane or at dinner having a beer, what do you think the comments would be regarding the coach and the decision-making that happened on Sunday?
Well, I think the players really respect Dan, so I think they probably just said, hey, you know what? We're living and we're dying with this aggressiveness, and honestly, this is what got us to this point. Michael Badgley in kicks over 48 yards was only 45% on the year, right, and on his career. So it's no easy gimme field goal. But honestly, if you're asking me, and a lot of people have, I would have kicked the field goal. I would have kicked the field goal, especially the first one when you're up 14, you're close, it's a little bit more of a chip shot field goal, and you have a chance to go up 3 scores against the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy, who had some momentum right there. I think I really would have done that, and I understand he's been aggressive. This is what he normally does. He likes going for it on 4th and 3 or less. I get that, but I say there's moments and times in games, in huge games, where you have to just take a step back, away from analytics, away from anything, and just say, what's the best decision for my team at this given point? I think for sure the first one, the field goal, to give them up to 17 if they would have made it, would have been a kick-it situation in my mind. But I don't think there's any talking between the players. I don't think there's anything going on like that, because I just think that Dan's really done a good job of building that culture really from scratch. When I was there in 2020, it was about as worse as you could possibly get. And in 3 short years, you're talking about a couple plays away from the Super Bowl, which is insane to me.
Well, it really is, and I think you bring up a great point. What he had to say after that game, he was probably thinking Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, was on his way out. Turns out that's not the case. So you still have vacancies in Washington, in Seattle, and I think that's it. I think the dust is clear. There's not going to be any other coaches leaving. I can't imagine, Shanahan and Andy Reid. Maybe Reid retires. I mean, that is possible. Yeah. But where does that leave these 2 teams, Washington and Seattle? And where does Belichick possibly factor into all this?
I don't think Belichick's getting the job this year. I think that his best shot was Atlanta, and I think him and Arthur Blank just didn't see eye to eye on maybe some football operation stuff. So I think he's probably going to end up doing some type of TV, some type of something to keep him busy. A coach cast would be awesome with him, Saban, and Pete Carroll. That would be must-watch TV. I would suggest he does that. But it's an interesting dynamic, and I actually talked about it today on the podcast, was the fact is that Washington probably thought that they were going to go ahead and get Ben Johnson. I know these reports are saying, hey, well, we weren't sold on him, yada, yada, yada. And I call bullcrap on that, because when you wait this long in the process to hire a head coach, you're probably going to end up hiring somebody from one of these teams that are the last ones left, right? Probably a coordinator. That's why Seattle and the Washington Commanders have waited so long. Well, when you pull Ben Johnson's name out, all of a sudden the Washington Commanders are back to one. And if they do go with a defensive-minded head coach like a Mike Vrabel or a Mike McDonald, you've lost all your really top-tier OC candidates because they've already committed to other coaches. And so it sort of screws them over a little bit in terms of the search. So you got to sort of go back to square one. You got to say, hey, we got the second pick. We're probably going to pick a quarterback, probably going to be Drake May. What do we want to do? Do we want to have a quarterback whisperer at head coach? Well, the only one left is Bobby Slowick, and you haven't really heard his name. So then eventually it leads me to say, hey, you're probably going to go with a defensive-minded head coach. But my question is, are you more worried about like that second pick overall at quarterback and seeing him get along, or are you worried about your organization and building it from a veteran leadership type standpoint? So it's an interesting situation to me what's going on right now in Washington.
Chase, I just want to go back to one of the comments you made, Bill Belichick potentially on TV. What do you think this guy, if he ends up on TV as an analyst on a panel, like, do you think it's like he's got this big personality? Does he, like, how do you think that unfolds? Because I think it would be must-watch TV just to see what he has to say and some personality.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously known not to have a ton of personality when it comes to answering questions, but every once a year, maybe twice a year, you get that like 9-minute long answer about special teams. It just shows how bright he is and how funny he is. And I really do think that if he were to get a TV job, I'd imagine like a Fox would be really good because they love big names. And this is all hearsay, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen? Knowing the Commanders or Seattle, Bill Belichick's going to be their head coach tomorrow. So you just don't know what's going to happen. But I think it would be must-watch TV, and I think he'd be really good at the analyst portion. I think that he would bring a personality about himself that would, America would love. But it brings me back, right? He's 15 or 14 wins away from the all-time win record. I hear people out here saying, oh, he's never coaching again. Yeah, right. If you're that close, you're for sure going to coach again. You just might need to take a gap year to do so.
Chatting with Chase Daniel, you look ahead to the Super Bowl now. We're all set. The next 2 weeks, everyone's going to be breaking it down. What sticks out? Who needs to play well? I mean, you'll be talking about it on the Chasin It podcast. But, naturally it's going to come down to the quarterback position. And Mahomes has established himself as clearly the best player of his generation, and he's chasing, Brady and GOAT status. Is Brock Purdy, is it appropriate to label this like David versus Goliath? Or, how would you label Purdy's role in this going into the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, Mr. Irrelevant versus Patrick Mahomes. And you got to look at it from a season standpoint in terms of what Brock Purdy's done this year. And almost every single passing metric known to man, he's top 2 or 3, top 5 in some. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, who's had his worst season of his career, but has still played really, really well in the playoffs. So it's so crazy. I never would have thought at the beginning of the year we'd say, hey, Mahomes is like middle tier in terms of stats, and Purdy's top 5 in almost every category. But then you just go down to championship experience, right? Both these teams, the Chiefs and the 49ers, 4 the last 5 NFC Championship games. Obviously, they lost to the Chiefs in 2019. Shanahan is going to be talked about this week a lot, and next week, and rightfully so, is Purdy the guy that can get him over the top, right? Can he get him his first Super Bowl? And honestly, the way Purdy's playing, I think he can. I think that it's going to be such an interesting matchup between Purdy and that offense and Shanahan calling the plays. I mean, CMC, Kittle, Ayuk, Jennings, Debo, all these guys are playing really well. And the biggest thing that you're going to see me talk about, at least in some of my quarterback breakdowns on YouTube, Chasin It, even NFL Network, is the whole week on how Steve Spagnuolo can get pressure on Brock Purdy, because that right side of that offensive line for San Francisco has struggled all year long. And you saw early in the game against Detroit. Detroit pressured the right side very, very well. Lots of picks, lots of games, lots of stunts, blitzes, etc. And it took Brock Purdy off the spot. And I think what Shanahan did in the second half was awesome. Spread them out, quick game, block them up shots, help that right side. He's going to have to do that from the jump because this Chiefs defense is legit. And I'm looking forward to the entire matchup, the entire week of breaking all these facets down within the game.
Chase, would Shanahan even have to bring up the idea of consistency? They had some lapses against Green Bay. They pulled it off. Their start versus Detroit wasn't great. They pulled it off. But to think you could actually play Mahomes in the Super Bowl and even have 5 or 10 minutes of a lapse, you'd have to be crazy to even have to introduce that idea to the players if they didn't already understand that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the calling card for him this week. I think that, those players understand it, and you have to be perfect to beat this Mahomes team because, quite honestly, their defense, only NFL team not to allow over 30 points. They've allowed 27 and 24, and then the rest barely over 20 points. So it's how they're doing it on defense, and you even saw Patrick Mahomes in the post-game press conference just say, hey, I've had to evolve as a player, understanding that I don't have to make the play like the superhero Josh Allen type play every single time because a punt is okay. A throwaway is okay. Our defense is playing really well. I've really understood how to play within the game. And honestly, that's a scary fact for a lot of teams in the NFL, most specifically the 49ers, because when you have the best player in the world getting better and better, it's a scary thought, right? It's I don't know if it's David versus Goliath, because if you remember in 2019, now I know they're different teams, the 49ers were handing it to the Chiefs. They were up 20-10 with 8 minutes left in the game. Obviously, Chiefs stormed back to win that game. So I do think this big game experience, it's going to be a cat and mouse game between Shanahan and Spagnuolo the whole game. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out.
I wanted to ask you, Chase, about the Taylor Swift effect. I mean, how much do you feel like it's a distraction, or is this good for the game, or where are you at?
I mean, I don't think it's a distraction at this point. I think in his own right with his own podcast, right, Travis Kelce's a celebrity, and it's just two celebrities dating each other, and one's really, really good at being a superstar singing, and one's really, really good at playing football. And I think, I saw that picture that went viral of Andy Reid on the podium, pointing at Taylor. So I think they've really played into it. I think it could have gone one or two ways to where, hey, let's not talk about it. But they've really invited it in and just sort of been a part of the team a little bit. And people that have any other views, in my opinion, you're welcome to your view. But at the end of the day, it's just football, and it's a girl that's, in love with a boy. And they're just, it's a crazy, crazy story because it's the NFL meets the entertainment world. And obviously she's a worldwide celebrity. So I'm sure the Super Bowl and, Romo and Nance are really excited about continuing that in the Super Bowl.
As they should be with Chase Daniel. And another thing that has basically exploded is, this idea that Taylor Swift was going to drag down the Chiefs. Well, now they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Everyone, remember, it was that's why they stink, because Kelsey's distracted. Do you see the way that guy played 2 days ago? Have you seen the way he's played down the stretch into the playoffs?
Yeah.
No one's distracted. Nothing's going to distract the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think Andy Reid plays a big role in that because, you mentioned Spagnuolo versus Shanahan, but Reid, what he's cooking up and what he cooked up in the first half against that Ravens defense this past week, that should terrify Shanahan and company. The fact that Andy Reid is who he is and what he's capable of doing, especially off a bye week, and give him 2 weeks. I'm curious, what kind of game plan you would expect he would bring to the table. But at a minimum, I think the respect of Andy Reid is, Chase, he's not going to get out-coached. They may not win the game, but I don't think Andy Reid's going to show up and look like a buffoon, 2 Sundays from now.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And that's one thing when I was with Reid for 3 years, and he is a quarterback whisperer, is one thing he's going to do is he's not going to over-prepare, but he's going to prepare the right amount, and he's going to have an answer for everything, especially offensively. And you look at their 3 playoff games, right, the Chiefs playoff games, offensively, Matt Nagy, Andy Reid, they've called probably the most balanced game plan I've seen them over 3 games. There's only been like 10 or 12 more pass attempts through 3 playoff games than rush attempts that the Chiefs have had. So they've taken a lot of pressure off Patrick Mahomes. They've run the ball really well. They've done some interesting things on third down. They've been really, really good in the red zone. Patrick Mahomes has 7 interceptions in 17 playoff games. So he doesn't turn the ball over. If you're San Fran on defense, the way that you've been giving up the run and just sort of been getting gashed by Green Bay and Detroit, especially Detroit, I'm sure he's going to have a plan for that. And I'm sure he's going to have a plan for how to unleash Patrick Mahomes, right? And the same with Shanahan for Spagnuolo, right? I mean, you're looking at 2 really good offensive and defensive play callers against each other. And I think that's the matchup within the game that I'm excited to see.
Yeah. Do you have a feel one way or the other, Chase? Who's going to win this thing?
It's too early. It's too early for me. I need to study a little bit more film and tape, but you just got to love the way that Mahomes is playing. And it's just really hard right now, in my mind, so far, to bet against Mahomes.
Yeah. That's what I think collectively everyone's saying, including idiots like myself who have bet against him multiple times. These playoffs where I'm like, no, this is it. Baltimore's going to get him. Lamar's going to do it. And no, sir. Sure. That's how good he is, man. It's wild.
Yes,
well, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks building up to it. We'll be tracking it, the Chasin It podcast, Chase Daniels Show. We'll see you on the NFL Network as well. Thanks for doing this, man, and enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, Chase Daniel, longtime NFLer and a former Kansas City Chief.
Yeah, it is hard to bet against Mahomes and Reid. Reid is
exactly.
He's that great of a coach. Now, if Reid gets this, is he sniffing into Belichick territory?
I think he's got to be in the consideration. I mean, again, you look at Belichick, his stats are off the charts, his resume's off the charts,
right?
And he was with Brady, right? Yet no one was like, oh, I'm taking something away from Belichick because Brady's so great.
Right.
I think the same logic should apply to Andy Reid. And prior to him getting there, he had a lot more success in Philly than Belichick did in Cleveland before he got to New England. Andy Reid has been winning a lot of ball games for a long time, man.
And I'm not buying the retirement thing after this. Can you imagine the energy and the youth that Patrick Mahomes probably instills in Andy Reid, man?
I agree.
Yeah.
Andy Reid's probably like, I'm riding that pony right until the end.
Right to the ground. Exactly.
I think if anything, what would happen is Andy Reid would retire and a year and a half later come out of retirement and come back.
Yeah, they don't win the Super Bowl one year, and then he says, you know what, maybe I'm going to come back. Fire the coach and bring me back.
Absolutely.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though. Near the end, wasn't there always whispers that Brady and Belichick weren't on the same page? It was...
Yeah.
There was some stuff behind the scenes, and maybe Brady had that weird guy on the sidelines where Belichick had to kick him out of there. The guy, I can't remember his trainer,
the
Brady's
fitness
trainer.
guy or
yeah,
whatever.
Tom Brady
guy.
has always come out, and he even came out most recently as today, and he said, I never really talked about the Patriot way. I think he just had an understanding that it worked. So he shut his mouth and he did it. It's like the guy that wants to complain about the coach who's going to help him win. It's like that guy can help you win. You might not love it. You might not like all of his ideas, but he can help you win. Well, that's what Brady did, and he won 6 with them.
But that's what I mean. Don't just at some point would the Reid Mahomes relationship just
what the hell could ever go wrong?
Well,
with
no,
that?
it is possible, Noodles, but I think that's 10 years away. Brady and Belichick were together for 20 years.
Yeah,
Mahomes and Reid are in year 6. So, I'm not disputing that. Everything, at some point, you butt heads, ego takes over, whatever. But I don't think it's – the timeline of Belichick and Brady, that didn't start to deteriorate or feel like it was until it was 17, 18 years into the marriage.
Right.
And even then, they were still winning. Even when there were rumors that they weren't, getting along or whatever, it's they're still winning. It's pretty wild. All right, so we'll come back with Confirm or Deny. Best bets coming up. This McIlroy audio, I think we might have it. Rory's at Pebble for the AT&T, and it's a lot of reports out there that the PGA Live, it's all coming together, and there's going to be a deal brokered here maybe any day now. So more on that and, what could be happening in the golf world moving forward.
Hazy, how's it coming together? How would it come together? Does it just mean you guys can come back and play any event you want?
I can't quite understand it. Like, why is Tyrrell Hatton going to get $60 million now and then in a week be able to just keep playing? I don't like. Why would Liv?
Great timing on his part.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But But why would Liv want that if guys can go back and forth in like
double
2
dip?
Weeks? Yeah, exactly. Like, why even pay Hatton? Why pay Rahm $600 million? He hasn't even played. Yeah, unless that's what officially put it over the top. Right. I guess that's possible. But I think it has to be a two-way street, doesn't it? Like, why wouldn't Justin Thomas call and say, fine, I'll come play live events. Pay me $100 million.
Welcome back here. Why the hell won't I?
Why wouldn't you go do that?
Million.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you play 14 PGA, 10 live, 4 majors, and see you later? I'm guessing that could be a part of the program moving forward.
Could be.
So we'll see what comes out of it this week. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050N on TSN 2.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
Go confirm or deny. Very simple stuff. Around the table, statements are made. We confirm or we deny them. All right? Very easy, very simple.
Go for it.
Let's get started. Confirm or deny. Nikita Kucherov and Nathan McKinnon are both a lock to be nominated, top 3, nominated for the Hart Trophy.
Absolutely 100% confirm. Not even a question. It's one of the biggest layup confirm or denies that have ever been proposed to me in the history of this segment.
Wow.
They've been dominant, and they're just – that Kucherov, man, like I played against a lot of Russian players that were really Fedorovs and guys like that. This guy is – like he's just a little bit below McDavid as far as what he does out there, man. He is a special talent. A guy that can just his power play abilities, I even think he's better than McDavid on the power play, Kucherov. That one, like just a guy that makes plays on power plays. I think if you polled 10 people in the NHL, they would say Kucherov by far is the best player on the power play in the league. I hold that guy in the highest regard.
He's
man.
unreal.
He is disgusting out there, and I don't think people know how good he really is. By the way, confirm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did say.
You
said that you led with that. I have a tough time because, and this is all assuming health, correct? Like we're just
exactly.
Health.
Assuming health the rest of the way.
I don't know. I just think there's others that could have. Like I'm arguing for Hellebuck.
Give him the Fergie, JP. Give him the
Hold
Fergie.
on,
There's a Fergie in there.
There's
I can neither confirm or deny that.
I'm trying to talk out my answer to myself, really.
That's Fergie
aloud.
Yeah, it's a Fergie.
I'm going to confirm it, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's McDavid, Hellebuck, Matthews. There's like other guys that are around the cusp, so there's no guarantee.
That's why I'm going to deny it.
Yeah,
I'm denying it 100%. I'm denying it. It's not a lock. You're telling me if
Yeah.
Matthews scores 70, he couldn't get in there. If McDavid ends up, outpacing the rest of the league by 40 points down the stretch, he couldn't get in there. What about one of the defensemen finally being nominated? Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar.
Right.
Pettersson's been great. What if Pasta ends up with an outrageous number? Again, it feels like a very good chance. If it were nominated tonight, Kucherov and McKinnon would 100% be in there. But it's just one of them has to fall out.
That's where I was.
One of them has to fall off. What if Tampa misses the playoffs?
Yeah, I want to change my answer then. Because I'm going to deny it too. Because I was talking myself out of it, and you guys were pushing me for an answer. We're
not interrogating you. It's a confirm or deny. It's
I know, but I was
put a fake nose on it, slick your hair back. You're Fergie.
Sorry, we didn't mean to bully you into an answer.
I just was trying to verbalize where I'd get to my answer, and it leans more deny, so I'm deny.
All right, you're at denial. I like it. All right, confirm or deny. William Nylander should be facing the most pressure of the Leafs forwards to perform in the second half.
William Nylander is facing the most
should
pressure.
face the most pressure to perform.
It's a layup question because you know what you did here, Fergie, and you know that since the ink has dried, he hasn't been at his best, and there's been a tail off of his production in the first half, and you knew this was a layup, and you Fergied it.
What is it then? Is it confirm
it's
or
a
deny?
confirm, of course.
No.
The guy just signed the richest deal in franchise history, and I don't know if he's scored since. So, of course,
But he kicks in
actually
next
got a
year.
couple in Vancouver.
It kicks in next year.
I know,
think there's
but
more
it's just
pressure
the
on-
idea around the player signing the richest deal. It's a layup. It's a confirm, of course.
Okay.
I'm a deny because, as I talked before, I think Mitch Marner has another level. I don't think he's been at his top. And I think John Tavares has a lot of pressure on him. The way this team is built, he can't be just okay and people happy that, hey, he got a point here. He's got to be an impact player for this team to do something. So I think there's pressure on those guys. If Willie continues on, he's playing at as a $7 million player this year, and he's having a good season. I think there's more pressure on the other guys.
Yeah, well, the $7 million that's gone though. Like, can we just clarify that? The second you sign the deal, he's an $11.5 million guy now. He's no longer $7. I don't want to hear, well, yeah. Listen, he's only
Kicks in
$7
next year,
barely
yeah.
making more than Bertuzzi. No. This guy just signed for $11.5. The second you sign that deal and negotiate that deal and get that deal, that's who you are.
In this city,
absolutely.
That's the case in this city.
Should be everywhere, but yes, for sure here. But I'm going to deny it. You mentioned Tavares and Marner. I'm going with the best player on the team still has the most pressure, and that's Austin Matthews. Like, McDavid's got the most pressure in Edmonton. McKinnon's got the most pressure in Colorado. Kucherov's got the most pressure in Tampa. Like, Matthews has been phenomenal. I fully expect he continues to be great. But the nature of the sport is up front. Like, who's your big boy? Like, who's the guy in the marquee that plays the most, is relied upon the most? That's still number 34. So Nylander's right there. He's right there. But I will deny it, and I'll say Matthews.
All right.
Confirm or deny, the Ottawa Senators should trade one of their young core forwards this summer.
100% confirm. You can't fall in love with young players, all of them together at the same time that don't win and or don't sniff the playoffs. They should have been creeping around, getting close, if not they should have been making it by now. I think it was a year and a half ago. It was Pierre Dorian that made the comment, but he said the rebuild is over. You just can't fall in love with your own players. And I know you put a lot of time, energy, money into them, but all of them together, it would be insane to fall in love with it saying, oh, they're going to go get him next year. Because what you do is you piss away another year. Because come Christmas time, you realize you're out of it again, and they didn't do it again. And shame on you for believing they would do it again. I like all of them, too. They seem like high-character people. They're hard workers. They're talented. But all of them together, they don't win. And you got to fix it. You got to change it.
I'm denying it because it doesn't have. You said forwards, right?
Yeah, so we're talking Kachuk, Stützle, Norris, Batherson, Pinto.
Yeah, I'm denying that. I think you could move a defenseman, but I don't think you could. You'd have to be married to the forward. Like I think you can move somebody from the core, but it doesn't have to be a forward.
But Noodles, wouldn't you look at the young forwards and say, you guys are all very good, but I can't keep all of you together. I just can't do it. Or would that be stupid as the idea of we're just moving you to move? The idea of moving
it depends
one
on
to
who you're
move
getting in. Like if it's a lateral move, you're getting I have no idea. If you're talking about trading Josh Norris, okay, so Josh Norris, when he was healthy, scored 38 goals in 68 games. So you get.
By no means am I talking about Josh Norris.
I'm
a lateral move is
stupid. He could
stupid.
be the guy. I mean, he's one of these guys.
But what I'm saying is,
about,
but if it's Drake Batherson, okay, go get a guy who makes $4.5 million that gets 60 to 70 points. Like you got to have somebody that comes in that does the exact same. If you're just looking for a different look, I think their defense. If you look at it, you've got Chychrun, Shabbat, Sanderson, Brandstrom, and this kid Clevin coming. They got a lot of left-handed shots. Yeah. On the right side, they've got Zub, he's like Mathot, stable guy, and they've got a young kid, Jacob Bernard Docker, who's a good young defenseman. He's 23, and then they've got Travis Hamonic, who's 33 and on an expiring contract. So to me, you got a bunch of left-handed shots that maybe one of those young guys goes from there, and you try and get a right shot D. I also think they need more veteran guys on that team, like more like the Claude Giroux, guys that could still contribute but are good, like to help show these young guys to get to that next level. They're all 22, 23, 24. Like you need it. The one thing the Leafs did when Matthews and all those guys were young is they had veteran. They went and got Patrick Marleau, and I know they had to pay King's ransom to get rid of him, but Patrick Marleau was a big part of those guys' development. They still stay in touch. You hear what Mitch Marner and Matthews and those guys have to say. So I think they're moving a piece. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying it has to be a forward.
Yeah, I mean, the commitment to the forwards, it does feel like a defenseman, they're going to move off some of them. One of them, who that's going to be, I guess, is yet to be determined. But I'll confirm it because I do think, I don't know how good all these guys are collectively. Like, I'm not moving off Kachuk. I'm not moving off Stützle. So we're talking the other guys. Pinto's difficult to get a read on right now because he missed 41 games. But listen, this has been a real debacle. Like, it's really been ugly with how bad it's been, for Ottawa. And you got new management in there. None of these guys, Steos, Pooley, all those, they didn't draft. They didn't develop. They didn't give these contracts.
No.
They're not beholden to any of these players. So from that standpoint, I could see a shakeup just based on that.
You know who they need back there on defense, and it's not this actual guy because he's left-handed and he's long in the tooth right now, who still makes quality. They needed like a Ryan McDonough back there who's very competitive and knows the gig and knows how to play. If they can get a guy, much like Tampa did when they picked him off the New York Rangers, if they can get that guy, maybe a right-handed shot. I don't know. There's no such thing as a right-handed Ryan McDonough out there.
You know who it is? I got asked today by a reporter, Chris Tanev, out of Calgary. Like like a guy like that, a stable right-handed shot, veteran guy, great leader, all of the stuff, captain material, but can still play. And maybe there's that's the type of stuff. Now, again, I'm not trying to start rumors, nothing. I was asked the question.
Well, he'll be a free agent at the end of the year.
Right,
so.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you look at players, what they need is guys like Giroux, guys like that who have played in the league, been through it all, seen it all, and can help stabilize in times where they were giving away leads. There was nobody, like, you can't have one guy on the bench going, "Hey, settle down here, guys." You need a collective calmness and maturity to your group.
And I'll say the same thing, Noodles, about Ottawa's decor as the Leafs. They don't need one Tanev. They need two. They need two.
Well, and then even last night, you see a goalie gets pulled again. And Korpisalo went in there, played great.
He was unbelievable.
He played great, but the game before he got pulled, and at some point that's going to have to be solidified too. All right, confirm or deny. As we know, Tom Brady was on with McAfee today. Said, "I'm can't wait to get to Fox. Can't wait. I'm calling a Super Bowl next year. Fox has got the Super Bowl." That seems like Brady's doing the rounds, saying, "I'm coming." Like, anyone disputing what I'm doing with my future, he's trying to tell the world he plans on being in the booth, calling games for Fox, which means Greg Olsen will not be in the A booth. Confirm or deny, other networks should go all in on Greg Olsen as their lead NFL analyst. How we feel about Greg Olsen? Because I will. Let me start here. I'm going to deny this. I really like Greg Olsen. I think he's been outstanding. I think the reaction, as if Tom Brady is banishing him to a prison somewhere. I've never seen anything like this.
Isn't this guy going to get a high-profile gig in football television somehow, panel, or doing other games or something?
He had a long career. He's made a lot of money. He still is. He's young and he's very good. He's got a lot of future. It's Tom Brady.
I get it. And I like the other guy. The other guy was selling Hyundai ponies 2 years ago, and now he's calling the big NFL games for Fox.
Right.
That Burkhardt guy was selling Hyundai ponies.
And he's really good. I like Burkhardt
a
lot.
He was, Noodles. He was selling cars 2 years ago.
No, he wasn't selling cars.
Dude, look it up. Joe from the Bridge, pull up the article. This guy was he was selling Hyundai ponies, and now he's the top guy at Fox.
Are you sure he worked at Hyundai?
He probably owned dealerships.
No.
He might maybe
was
owns
a car salesman, Hayes. I read the piece.
If you can present me with that piece, it's
Doogie,
not an onion.
Get on your Google machine, Doogie, and find me the piece that says Kevin Burkhardt was selling Hyundai ponies 2 years ago.
I will never question you again. If you're telling me within 2 calendar years, Kevin Burkhardt was sitting at a Hyundai somewhere in the Midwest trying to sell
Doogie, do you
cars.
have anything for me to confirm this? Because this is the King Daddy topper. When Hayes will say, "I'll never question you again."
I will never question you again.
This might be fake news.
I found it.
Wow.
Hang on a second here. Go ahead, Doogie. What did you say?
Via the Wall Street Journal, Kevin Burkhardt was a car salesman. Now he's calling the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but how many years ago?
That doesn't matter, guys.
Yes, it
doesn't
Yeah, it might
matter.
be 2008. He was selling cars.
A summer job. The guy
Doogie,
was in college somewhere.
Look at this guy. Hang on. I need my glasses, but I can't read it. At 30
years old,
he made $18,000 selling Hyundai ponies.
18 years, you buffoon.
No way.
He's 48
no way.
years old now. At 30
exactly.
years old.
Who cares? So what he was doing? You said 2 years ago this guy was selling cars.
Hayes, you don't know how long he sold cars for. Maybe from 30 to 45 he sold cars.
He's been calling he used to call, I think, NASCAR and stuff. Like the guy's been calling sporting events for Fox for a long time. You don't take over for Joe Buck because you used to sell cars.
So are you
2
calling
years
my
ago.
report erronious?
I'm calling it fake news.
What it is I think it's stretched. You're like, this guy was selling it a couple years ago. That was 18 years ago. Like for me, you could say, well, you used to deliver pizza. Yes, when I was 16, I worked for Baco Pizza and delivered
I've had a lot of jobs
I read a piece last year when he started getting famous that this guy 2 years ago was selling cars, and it's a great story because now he's calling.
In the case of Lion Ted Cruz, Lion Ted lies. He lies.
A great story. It's just not a factual story. It's just that, a story. It's a great story.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, I like Greg Olson, but I think I'm really intrigued by Brady. It's Tom Brady. And again, the amount of people that are just like can't get over this. Like, what about Greg Olson? What happens to Greg Olson? I'm like,
I know.
Can everyone relax a little bit here? Have a little bit of perspective.
I know. It's like he's going to flip burgers now, and it's
exactly.
He's going to sell cars, but
right. You're on the A team, or you're flipping burgers, or selling cars or something. Greg Olson's going to be okay.
He's going to be fine.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Confirm or deny. All right, we'll come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Tee up the Raptors Bulls game tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Nikola Vukovic, I think, goes off tonight. Over 18.5 points for the Bulls. He's always been a Raptor killer in the past. Raptors have serious issues in the front court. So I'm on Vukovic over 18.5 points. Gary Trent Jr., 3+ threes made tonight. And Alex Caruso, also a Raptor killer, is going to put up 10+ points. There's your SGP for the Raptors-Bulls game tonight. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The sweat begins at tip-off by betting your favorite NBA star to score the first basket or go for 30+ points in a same-game parlay. Please play responsibly, 19+ and physically located in Ontario. Still no news on Anthony Edwards and what could happen with him. A lot of wild stuff going on in the NBA. Like Embiid's all banged up. Yeah. And, people were saying he was dodging Jokic a couple nights ago.
Well, every year he doesn't play there. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's a bad look. Like
every year, it's like the guy you're going up against the MVP for and you miss that game.
Right.
A little bit weird.
Come on. We got to see it. And I guess the Bucks last night had a big lead and they lost, and now people are like, what is Doc Rivers doing?
Dude, I'm telling
what's
you.
going on here, Doc?
I don't know coaches in that league from anything, but I don't think that was the guy you bring in to take you over the top. I just don't.
We'll see. You guys, you want to hear the Rory McIlroy clip quickly from Pebble today on PGA and Live relations? Go ahead.
Guys made choices to go and play Live. Guys made choices to stay here, and if people still have eligibility on this tour and they want to come back and play, or you want to try to do something, let them come back. I mean, I think it's hard to punish people. I don't think there should be a punishment for I've changed my tune on that because I see where golf is, and I see that having a diminished PGA Tour and having a diminished Live Tour or anything else is bad for both parties. Be much better being together and moving forward together for the good of the game.
Oof, man, is that a reversal?
Yep.
Dude, he basically sees the writing on the wall. 10 to 15 to 20 times a year, he wants all the best players to be on the same golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen the winners, the leaderboards, no disrespect to the players that have won. But it's like they realize that can't move forward. That's not. Nobody wants to buy into that, man.
And listen, everyone is entitled to changing their opinions, their views. I don't hold anything against him.
No,
he doesn't get to control it all. But I do wonder if what's next is him saying, "Yeah, I'll play for Live."
Too.
Yeah, exactly. Because remember, it was I don't care if it's the last place on earth. I'll never play there. I hate that. Sound like if you've changed your tune that much on everything else, why not just go play on Live? Like
either that, or he's like, "Give me the green light that we can come back and forth, and I'm gone."
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he was being a hero, and now he's backtracked, basically.
Well, it's a serious reversal. Again, he's not the commissioner. He doesn't run the golf world, but pretty heavy voice. There you go. We'll have picks tomorrow. Got to have picks for Pebble. Big tourney. Got to have picks. So picks tomorrow. Maybe Jerry's tomorrow. Who knows? The big week. All-Star week continues. All right, thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Burkhardt sold cars up until last spring.
1997.
4 p.m.
Well,
4
shut
p.m.
then.
4 p.m.